I'm JP Davidson, and this is The Sound of Small Business. Inspiring stories and hard-earned lessons from successful Canadian entrepreneurs. Brought to you by RBC Royal Bank.
Hey guys! Hi Talia, hi Miriam,
I'm at KV Dance Studio in Ottawa. It's about 4 o'clock and the place is packed with parents and kids. Kalina Van Den Ness is showing me one of the brightly colored studios, while kids in leotards fill the halls.
I'm just trying to find my keys. I always lose them.
This studio is Kalina's baby, but getting a tour right now is nearly impossible. She stops to talk to pretty much every kid.
What's with the outfit? You're so hipster. Yeah. Are they new?
Our mandate is to basically not only offer dance classes, but to create a second home for everyone, whether or not they're taking 1 class a week or 19 classes a week.
And the students here don't seem to have any trouble making themselves right at home. Someone just jumped into your arms.
Yeah, this is Ella Lambert.
Hi.
Her dad actually was my contractor. What did you do, Ella?
We screwed in the floors, we painted the walls.
Yeah.
That's right. She actually helped make this place. Kalina and the community built this business, both literally and metaphorically. I know it sounds horribly cliched, but it's true. And like all small businesses, the story of this one starts well before the lease was signed.
I remember always dancing. I never remember not dancing.
Kalina was born in Toronto, but grew up in Brazil. That's where her mother's from.
I remember learning the lambada and learning samba. It was just always a part of my life, always.
But something else had always been a part of Kalina's life. Flying. Her dad worked for an airline, and they were always traveling. She remembers being 14 and flying to Florida with her dad. He asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up. And maybe to tip the scales just a little, he handed her a magazine article about a female pilot. So that became Kalina's plan. She'd trained to be a commercial pilot, and just for fun, she started taking recreational dance lessons through her school.
And I was asked by the person who was in charge of the entire program if I would be interested in helping her run summer classes for preschool-aged kids.
She said yes, and instantly took to it. She would even go to the library in her spare time and nerd out on dance techniques.
Yeah, I do that with everything. I always make sure that when I'm asked to do something, I do it 110%.
Meanwhile, she's still studying with the same 110% to become a pilot. And that's how she finally ended up here in Ottawa, to continue her flight education. Oh, and she also got a part-time job teaching dance classes to help pay for flight school.
And that's when things started to shift. Every moment that I was teaching, I felt like this was what I needed to do.
Pretty soon, Kalina was teaching dance all over the city.
On a Wednesday, I would be teaching at the community center here, 4 classes in a row, and then I'd run onto the bus, and then I'd have 2 hours to get to a location to teach, like at 8 o'clock at night, and then I would teach at the community center and then get on the bus and teach adult classes. It was just all over the place. And as a young adult in my early 20s, that was okay. But as I got older, I decided that I needed to really zone into where I wanted to focus.
Giving up on one dream to pursue another is never easy. But Kalina now knew that teaching dance was her future. So she stopped flying, the dream she and her dad had shared for years. And by focusing all her dance teaching at one community center, she'd spend less time commuting and more time teaching. And this community center was pretty lucky to have her.
When I started teaching there was only a handful of dance classes, and I taught 4 of them. By the time I left, I was teaching 20 classes and I was managing 70.
She was an all-star at the community center. Her classes would fill up in minutes.
It was insane. We would have online registration night and the system would crash. And for a recreational dance program, that is unheard of.
Even with all that success, you only earn so much money at a community center. So being a true entrepreneur, Kalina hustled. She'd buy dance shoes off eBay and resell them to her students. She'd tape the recitals and sell DVDs. And she started doing dance photography on the side, too. It was around this time that she started to outgrow the community center. Dance was just one of many programs there, and Kalina was tired of competing for resources and space. She was ready to do her own thing.
Over the years of experience and training myself on how to be a great boss, a great business person, and coming up with all these innovative ideas of subsidizing my own income, I knew that I could put that all together.
She started with a business plan, and she didn't write just any business plan.
I wrote the best business plan anyone could ever read.
Kalina hunkered down and banged out the 80-page plan in about a week. It was everything she'd learned in 9 years at the rec center, distilled into one perfect document. The ticket to her dreams.
I included everything you can imagine in that business plan. What my initial concept, my marketing research, order form for dance costs for more photo equipment. I did a SWOT analysis, human resource plan as well. Break-even projections, industry trend research, my worst case scenario listed, my best case scenario, and my realistic. It was my Bible.
With such a thorough business plan, she locked down a small business loan from her local RBC branch. Plus, she did something a little different. She approached some of the families she had worked with before to be part of something she called the Founders Club. That way, those families became sort of investors.
Not so much as an investor, but they could pay a certain amount of money for their kids receiving unlimited dance classes for 2 years.
Kalina gets the upfront money she needs to start her business, and the families get discount dance lessons. It's win-win. But asking people for money is never easy.
It was terrifying, but I had to psych myself out every single time and tell myself that if they don't invest, it's not that they don't believe in you. You have to remember it's not personal. It was a huge leap of faith.
Kalina met each of the parents one-on-one, face-to-face, to make her big ask.
It's hard to ask people for money, but the kids thrived from just being in my programs.
She got some no's, but in the end it worked. She got the money she needed and even found someone who wanted to do one better and become a private investor.
For me, it was the only way that I could start. The day that I received the check from my investors was the day I clearly remember, this is for real. This is actually happening.
Next thing you know, Kalina traded her dance shoes for steel-toed boots.
I think we actually have a picture of her using a jackhammer breaking the floor here, so it was pretty awesome.
That's Jason Lambert, Kalina's contractor. The space she leased was in pretty rough shape, and they needed to put in things like soundproofing and floor-to-ceiling mirrors. And remember, Jason is the parent of one of her students, the one that jumped into her arms earlier. So it was an easy sell for him to come on board.
She's created an entire community for the kids in this neighborhood, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Kalina's former/future students were dropping by, even before the studio was opened. They helped with things like painting or assembling furniture. And pretty soon, the big moment came. She'd made her business plan around Christmas, and by summer, the KV Dance Studio registration site was online, ready for anyone who wanted to sign up.
I knew that people were away on vacation because it's the middle of summer, so I really didn't know how it was going to go.
It's that nerve-wracking moment every entrepreneur faces. Will anyone buy what I'm selling? In a minute, Kalina flips the switch. Would it be a flood of customers or just a trickle? But first, the Sound of Small Business is brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. As a specialist in small business lending at RBC, Zach Gauntz has seen a lot of business plans cross his desk.
We get the back of the napkin, the half-page write-up that has spelling mistakes.
But once in a while, he gets something closer to a graduate-level research paper, like the 80-page epic novella from Kalina.
Yeah, it was definitely a beast, and I'm pretty sure I took it home a couple nights in a row just to make sure that I could get through the full thing. It was a bit of a homework assignment. And then I saw a huge potential right out of the gates. She just knew the people and knew that it was going to be a success. And when you know an owner cares, then that's someone we want to jump for. Seeing the business go from a paper plan to, bricks and mortar. It's really seeing someone someday come true. Our door is always open, and we're willing to look at any level of plan, whether it's on the back of a napkin or a full 80-page Kailina document.
For help making your someday happen, speak to a business specialist at your local RBC Royal Bank branch, or go to rbc.com/buildingbusiness today. So Kailina has just launched her new dance studio's registration website, and she's staring at the computer, wondering if her dream is going to become reality.
I had no idea what to expect.
But within the first 24 hours, she'd brought in about $30,000 worth of registrations.
Even though my students hadn't even seen the studio, their parents and themselves believed in me enough to follow me and know that whatever we're offering here is going to be amazing.
Elbows, Maddie. Elbows, Sid. Good. Elbows. Come on.
It's a Wednesday night here at KV Dance Studio. About a dozen teenage girls with ponytails and leggings are evenly spaced out in front of floor-to-ceiling mirrors. They're getting warmed up. Kailina stands at the front of the room.
Okay, everyone up. We're going to start.
Now, about 6 months after she first opened, the studio is busy like this every night. And Kailina has 26 instructors, assistants, and volunteers helping her out, many of which are former students. But this success was never a foregone conclusion. Even with an airtight business plan, a great location, and funding locked down.
I think that was the easy part. Opening the dance studio is the easiest part. I think running it is the hardest part.
That's where the rubber hits the road. Even a thorough business plan like Kailina's can't anticipate every little thing. There were bound to be some adjustments to be made. For one thing, the seemingly thorough communications plan needed to be beefed up.
I send emails out. I do Facebook posts, Twitter posts, Instagram posts, and yet sometimes still parents will turn to me and say, "Oh, I didn't know that's when the recital was."
In this line of work, busy parents are the norm. So Kailina tailored her business to suit their needs. She's implemented things like a walkover service, where her staff pick up the kids after school and walk them back to the studio.
I just make it so that it's not only easy for the kids, it's easy for the parents. So it made them register for more services, which for me resulted in more revenue.
Then there was the time last winter, during one of those freezing cold days. She was in the middle of her dance class and...
Because there's so many bodies in here, the condensation was very high when it was minus 40. So what happened there is the ceiling started to sweat and drip onto the students. So that was a fun day.
It was raining sweat in one of the studios. She scrambled to plug in a few dehumidifiers, which of course shorted out the power.
So then I had to call the electrician, who then came and installed new plugs.
So what, are you like freaking out during all of this?
Oh yeah, I was going insane, but I had to keep a straight face for the kids and just be like, "No worries, guys, we'll get through this."
Okay, so you're gonna go forward, this, okay?
So far, she's gotten through it. One hurdle, one career change, one student at a time.
I love working with them. I love the hugs. I love the cards. I love making people feel loved. And that's how I do it, is through my business.
Okay, guys, have a great March break, and we'll see you after. Bye, everyone. Bye.
I started teaching a couple of classes to coordinating a program to now running my own business. And the possibilities are still endless of where I can take this. And I'm just in my first 6 months.
The studio is nearly at capacity, and Kailina is already making plans with her contractor to expand into the next unit over. But if pressed, she's got even bigger plans.
Maybe franchising, maybe taking this across the country. We've seen it with gyms. We've seen it with restaurants. Why not dance studios?
If anyone can do it, it's Kalina. So that's the story of KV Dance Studio. To take a closer look at the lessons we might learn from Kalina's success, I spoke with Vicki Saunders, entrepreneur, mentor, and business advisor.
I actually have a couple of nieces who are super into competitive dance. And so I've learned a lot about this recently. And it is unbelievable to me how much money people are spending on it. So I didn't know that this was an awesome business before, but I've seen a few of them. And this seems like a really big opportunity.
I really love how Kalina hustled at the community center. She had all these little side businesses, and she was almost an entrepreneur within the community center.
Yeah, I think this is actually one of the most amazing ways to become an entrepreneur is that you start in a safe environment. So she had a salary, she was working at a place, she had that security, and then she was able to go and explore opportunities, and she almost stumbled upon a new business idea, right? And then she really got energized by it and excited by it. And then thought, maybe I could go do this on my own. That's a really interesting way to become an entrepreneur. It's a different pathway than someone who just, okay, I have no check, jump off the cliff and go try something. This is a little bit more of a sort of staged approach. I think there are lots of intrapreneurs, which is the word for an entrepreneur inside an organization these days. There are lots of entrepreneurs out there who aspire to go out in the world and dream of starting their own thing. And then there are people that take that step. Some of it is a factor of confidence. Other could be, the situation that you're in your life right now. But there's a courage that's involved in that. And I think people that have that courage to go, I can do this, that's the differentiating factor.
When Kalina left the community center, a lot of her clients followed her. Have you seen other entrepreneurs grapple with guilt and difficulty around leaving and taking a chunk of your former employer's business with them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, are conscious. They are loyal to the organization that they started in. They had the freedom within that organization to actually explore and identify these opportunities. And so when you leave, I can imagine there might be some guilt. But on the other hand, if there's a real business opportunity here, she needs to take it. She's excited about it. She's passionate about it. One of the biggest things for an entrepreneur is you can't be a leader if you don't have followers. Right? It's a natural thing that people love to get behind charismatic leaders and interesting ideas, and she's got one. It's inevitable.
One of the things Kalina did that was a little different as far as the financing side went is she did this thing called the Founders Club.
I think Kalina's financing approach is brilliant. It's really the original crowdfunding, right? You go to individuals and you give them the perk. The perk is a couple of years. This is genius, really. And it also, if I was an investor in a later stage and I heard that, I'd be so excited going, wow, this woman knows how to build community. She knows how to get people engaged. I think one of the things that you're looking for as an investor or as a business partner with someone who has an idea like this is how rabid are your customers, right? And she has customers that are super loyal and excited about her such that they'll write a check in advance. That's fantastic. I mean, you die for that as an entrepreneur.
So when you're acting entrepreneurially in your day job, how do you know when it's time to make that leap and give up the steady paycheck and go out and try something on your own?
For a lot of people, the thing that makes you take the leap is pure frustration. And, that's the one I hear the most often is finally someone's like, something happens at work and you're like, okay, that's it. I got to get out of here. And I think that that's when humans make the biggest change is when they get really frustrated. Or others could be inspiration. Somebody, you realize, oh my God, I'm getting so many people coming to this community center. This could be my business. Oh my goodness, I'm going to go do this, right? So it really, it depends on the person and the experiences, but it's either frustration or opportunity.
Kalina's business plan, this was her Bible, she calls it, and it was an 80-page document. She banged it out in about a week, but it was super thorough, well-researched. Are there common mistakes people make when they're making a business plan, whether it's a back-of-the-napkin one or 80 pages?
I think that business plans are based on what you've seen happen in the past, usually. right? And to right now with some kind of vision to the future. So the only thing that you know is it's not going to happen the way that you think it does. And there are so many unforeseen things that occur. There could be a competitor that comes along. There could be other business opportunities within your business that, somebody can walk in the door with an opportunity and you go, that's great, and go into a different direction. I think that's the biggest challenge, is like you don't know what's going to happen next. So you're really writing your plan based on history as opposed to the future. Like I wrote a business plan for one of my ventures and I kind of drew 3 circles and I said, if this happens, then this is probably going to happen. And if that happens, then this is what the business will look like. And I, didn't have the details of the how figured out, but the why was super clear and the what was super clear. So, it just sort of depends on your approach to doing things. One of the great things about a business plan is it shows investors and it shows yourself that you've thought through everything that you can think of at the beginning.
So Kalina, being the go-getter that she is, helped her contractor with the renovations. She got some steel-toed boots and was there every day helping out in whatever way she can, even though she didn't have a background in construction. It worked out well. Her contractor told me that he enjoyed the experience of having her there. But am I wrong to think that's maybe a mistake to try to take on a part of the business you're not familiar with and maybe possibly annoy your contractor?
I think when you're getting a business started, you're so passionate about it. You're so excited. You want to be involved in every aspect. And hey, if you want to put on work boots and go hang out with the contractor, that's cool. And I have a friend who's opening up a yoga studio right now, and she wants to do exactly the same thing because she's got such a vision for what the place needs to look like, and she wants to understand how it works. So is that actually the best use of her time? ? But if that's what she's really passionate about doing, then go for it.
Vicki, do you have a go-to dance move?
I do not have a go-to dance move, but I'll have to start working on that.
Like the shopping cart and picking the items out, the mime shopping cart. That's my go-to. Yeah. Thanks, Vicki.
Pleasure.
Vicki Saunders is the founder of SheEO. She spoke with me from Toronto. This has been The Sound of Small Business, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. Next week, we visit the Oyster Group in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, where Faith Drinnen remembers pushing the limits of home-based business.
We had to print 24 hours a day, so you had to keep refilling the paper. And it dings. It would ding when it ran out of paper. So I hauled a mattress from our side of the house into the office side of the house and put it by the printers. And so whenever I heard a ding, I would get up. And I remember I was 6 months pregnant with Maggie because I remember getting up wasn't as easy as it could have been if I wasn't. And refilling, all those papers all night long for a few nights. It was crazy.
Subscribe to this podcast series to hear this and other stories of Canadian entrepreneurs who would never let a pesky thing like sleep slow them down. Search for The Sound of Small Business wherever you find podcasts, or visit rbc.com/buildingbusiness, where you can also learn how to start your own small business. Thanks for listening. This podcast series is intended as general information only and is not to be relied upon as constituting legal or other professional advice.